What up, everybody? I'm your host, JP. This is my co-host, Josh.
Hey, everyone.
And welcome back to another episode of the FilmBros podcast. All right, y'all. Today we got ourselves another review, okay? A remake to a, honestly, in my opinion, an iconic movie. It's near and dear to my heart. So this movie, in the beginning, I didn't have any issues with it, but after finishing it up and actually thinking about it, I have some bones to pick.
Yeah.
With that being said, Josh, let them know which movie we are reviewing today.
We are reviewing White Man Can't Jump 2023.
You think you're slick, huh? Just showing up to court dressed like a dumbass, acting like you can't hoop.
You assumed I couldn't hoop because I'm white, which is incredibly outdated.
No, I assumed you couldn't hoop because you were dressed like a white girl at Whole Foods.
Every hooper I know is entering that big-ass tournament.
With a winner, get $500,000. I just need somebody who can play so I can make some money.
You're joking, right?
$500,000 for one day of hoop. We can hustle a few games together to get the money for the entry fee.
I'll find some marks. Those short shorts look incredible on you. Throw them off their game. You have an OnlyFans? And we'll clean up.
I don't know how much you talking trash lady today, but good work.
Thank you. You could talk way more trash out there. You have so much material I can't even touch.
Like what?
Never mind.
Oh, tell us.
Where the love go?
Okay, so Josh, I love doing these talks with you, these remake talks, because I feel like, because the original White Man Can't Jump came out in 1992. Okay, had Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes, Gloria Perez.
Yeah.
And I grew up with that movie, right? So technically, this 2023 version would be yours.
This is, yeah.
Yeah.
My generation.
And, I don't know how often or how many times you've seen the original and if you're able to compare it fresh in your mind. But, like, for me, I'm able to, like, do that. And after, during the movie, I was doing it, but I was like, it's too distracting. I gotta focus on the movie.
Yeah.
So after the movie, I kind of was thinking about it, and I was like, man, there's so many comparisons. I'm gonna also critique this on its own merit because it is its own film, but
it's gonna be hard because it is a remake.
Yeah,
and the original's kind of a classic.
Yeah, and so how does it, like, before we jump into the actual review, like, watching this movie, how fresh in your mind is that 1992 version?
I remember it really well. Like it's one of my favorite basketball movies too. Like, like if off top rip, it's like that one, and then it's Coach Carter. The rest trickle down. But like this, I remember it very nicely. That's why when we tried watching it the first time, I was just like, the beginning is nothing like. Well, okay, I know you're not supposed to critique it like this, but there's a clear difference between the original and the remake is what I'm trying to say. Not just by scenes, because I know things are different there, but like the circumstances are different. I think with the original, it's still very clear in my mind. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's why even when I was watching, I'm like, this is hard to think about without bringing up the OG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was pretty tough. I think the first time we watched it, I was just more in that zone where trying to focus on it by itself kind of thing, and that's why, like, I wasn't on that same wavelength as you. Even during this whole time, I had to sit down and rewatch it, and I was watching it, and I was like still on that same wavelength because I felt like it was too distracting to go and nitpick and do all that stuff and try to compare and contrast, and I felt like it doesn't give it a fair shake, if that makes sense. So, but either which way, here we go, jumping into White Man Can Jump 2023 edition. So we got for the cast, or actually the director, we got Calmatic. He only has only done a couple movies. So he's done House Party. I don't know if you've seen that one.
The recent one?
Yeah, the recent one.
No.
That one just recently came out. It was funny, but knowing who's the director now, because I didn't know jumping into this movie, and after watching House Party, like, it makes sense.
It
makes
okay.
sense. And the Vince Staples show, which never seen that, so I mean, I guess my only reference is the house party.
That explains that then. Okay, because he's in White Man Can't Jump, right? Vince Staples. Yeah. See, so I was like, damn, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, there was a lot of references with this movie that made sense.
Okay.
Like even that little by the way, guys, this from here on out is gonna be spoiler talk. So if you guys haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie and come back. Or if you're too scared to give it a chance and you don't care if it's spoiled or not, well, here you go. Go ahead and stay, you maniacs. So there was also a scene at the very end, very end, where like it's supposed to be like the happy ending, and Tyler Hero was there, and that's one of Jack Harlow's songs.
Yeah. And
so I was just like, wow, way to be so meta, movie. So Climactic, this is his third movie putting out, and actually both movies that he directed came out the same year. House Party recently came out in March, and this one came out in what are we? May? Yeah. So not too, or I think probably came out in January or February, somewhere like that. So we got the cast. We got, like I had said before, Jack Harlow, his debut in cinema.
Yeah.
As Jeremy, and Sinqua Walls as Kamal, Tiana Taylor as Imani, Laura Harrier as Tatiana. We know her from Euphoria and all that. And Vince Staples as Speedy. He was actually in there throughout the whole movie. Andrew Schultz made an appearance. Lance Riddick, the late Lance Riddick. It was very nice to see him. Honestly, the best acting in the movie, hands down in my opinion.
For sure.
But
you're really good.
We got a couple surprise cameo. Blake Griffin was there. A few more little funny.
You know who's.
Yeah, you know who's. So, Josh, before we jump into the review, though, do you want to give us a brief synopsis of what the movie basically entailed?
Similar to the OG, not by much, but Khalil meets Jeremy. They decide to team up, go through hustling people to earn money for this big competition toward the end of the movie, where they decide to just play basketball.
Yeah.
For money. A little silly, but sure.
Yeah, they want to go ahead and kick off their careers, right? As the movie progresses, we obviously figure out why Homeboy's 30 years old trying to make it in the NBA and hasn't made it. Why Jeremy doesn't live up completely to expectations. I don't really see what expectations the movies put up for him, but hey, it is what it is. But let's go ahead and start jumping into the first quarter, if you'd say, and that's the characters. What'd you think about the characters? Obviously, they were new characters. They weren't like the OGs, and like I said, we are going to be comparing. We'll judge it on its own merit, but we're also going to compare to begin with because we need to show you how far and how contrast the movies are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I mean, for me, I got two ways of going about this.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Because I could judge it on its own and lightly compare it, or I could just tear into it by fully comparing it. And I don't want to do that yet. So for me, the characters were they were simple, but not a good simple. You know what I mean? Like they were trying to force you into seeing all this like negativity and things like that, if that makes any sense. Like a lot of political stuff that you say, I feel like this was more like blatant in your face type shit.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't subtle. It was very like, I'm black and I'm poor. You know what I mean? Like I understand the politics behind that. You don't have to kind of shove it down my throat.
Yeah.
Khalil, I mean, his character was fine. Nothing really like outstanding for it, I don't know. Has he been in other things?
Kamal? Sinqua Walls? Yeah, he was in House Party.
I didn't watch that one.
Nanny, Resort to Love, Alice, Shark Night, Otherhood.
Yeah, no, I've never.
Yeah, not a lot of
Okay.
movies. I know that he made a couple appearances, and that little he does a lot of cameos and a lot of TV, if that makes sense, and he does a lot of cameos within like what is it called, like all African American cast movies and stuff like that. So there was that one little fake ass Dwayne Wade comment. I'm like, they use that in every movie that he's in because he looks like a knockoff Dwayne Wade.
Oh, there you go. So, Kamal was fine. Nothing really spectacular about his character. Very generic. And then Jeremy, Jack Harlow's character, also very basic, but in the sense of like, I understand the movie's kind of playing on stereotypes, but I feel like there could have been more to their characters, if that makes any sense. And then when they try to do more, I find it annoying. You know what I mean? I'll get more on that later, but I feel like the characters were just kind of
The characters for me didn't really mesh well with each other. Like Jack Harlow, I felt like he was trying to act like Woody Harrelson too much. I don't know if you noticed in the way that he spoke, but I feel like he was doing his best impression as well as trying to act, cool and stuff like that. Or like, laid back, chill, whatever, like therapy wise. And it didn't really hit. He tried to do a copycat, in my opinion. I don't know if you noticed that, but for me watching it, it really seemed like he was trying to ride that train for a while. Him and Kamal Allen's chemistry wasn't really there. It seemed like when they would try to have actual moments where they try to talk, it was always broken with that where, white, black, even though they said like, hey, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
They continued to,
they brought it up throughout the whole film.
And I understand that kind of banter because I always say those kind of jokes never would make it in these kinds of movies and stuff like that. And that's exactly the thing, because if you've seen the jokes that they made back in the day when they would poke at that, that fun, it would be more, I guess you can say more fluid. It felt like you weren't walking on eggshells, and playing it safe.
It's not as watered down. Okay, it wasn't as watered down as it is now, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So even then, that kind of hurt the movie for me a lot. I did not like Lauren Harrier's Tatiana either. I know she's a good actress. I think she was honestly one of the better actresses, but that relationship between her and Harlow didn't really mix either. I didn't feel any connection. Not like how, the OG with Rosie Perez and Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
Harrelson. Like, they were struggling too, and he was basically struggling with the things that Jack Harlow was struggling with, wanting to go play basketball. He wasn't hurt. He was just basically more focused on that than getting a job and stuff like that, right?
He was just a heavy gambler.
Exactly. And so even like she wanted to help him and bring him back, and even though like he kept going, like it pushed him to the brink, and obviously she wanted to leave in that movie or whatever, but like you can feel like she cared about him still. And in this one, Jeremy's and Tatiana's relationship didn't really hit like that. It just felt like he's just here, you know what I mean? Like I have to act with him.
There was no real like chemistry there.
No, I didn't feel that at all.
With Woody Harrelson's character and what's her name? They were just, it felt genuine. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like yeah, they're in the shit, but they're in the shit together.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And this one didn't feel that way at all.
Yeah, it felt like, again, like we understand the premise of her character in this one is that she still wants to leave, but it's not so much that Jeremy's character is dragging her down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it didn't feel like that, huh? Because she had her own thing going on.
Yeah. She could have been like halfway through the movie. She just decides, I'm going to go travel. And
yeah.
She does.
Exactly. I was more like, I was sitting there like, okay, like when she was like, I'm going to leave, I was like, Harlow, why are you mad? Why? Because she's leaving? It doesn't matter. She doesn't even look like she cares about you anyway, dog.
There was no scenes where I was like, okay, yeah, I can believe that they're in a real thing,
Yeah.
But no, there was, like, with the OG, I get that sense. And that's why I mean, spoilers for the OG, but when she leaves Woody Harrelson's character, if you fucking feel for that.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, I didn't feel nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I was just watching, I was just like, she'll be back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for some reason, she'll be back. There really isn't a reason. Especially, like, it's weird that they try to play on today's time and be like, oh, you know, I can get my bag and do whatever I want or whatever. But at the same time, they're going to try to use the old tropes where it's like they're eventually going to come back because their love is actually there and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Even at the end when, you know, that he proposes or whatever, it just felt like whatever. I was just like, okay, that's fine.
Like, he's doing it just to keep her around. And then all that bullshit about, like, oh, I won't do it again. I won't fuck up, whatever. And I'm just like, that just, like, I feel like that could have gone unsaid. You didn't have to promise her anything like that to propose.
She was already sitting there across the way. You know what I mean?
She was willing to say yes way before you got all like that.
I will say, like I said, Lance Reddick, his character was great. I really loved his acting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he really brought a good spark to it.
Yeah.
Him and Kamal's relationship as father and son, that emotional moment actually was emotional. I won't lie. It hit right. It's just, it seemed after that they just forgot all about it. And that's probably a problem with writing and stuff like that. So we'll dip into that later. But that emotional moment at least hit between the two of them. I think Lance gave a good, like, performance right there.
Yeah.
And I would say him and his wife as well. I think they had a good dynamic together as well. I think Vince Staples and the other dude were funny as hell too. And I kind of liked because Vince Staples was the buddy, the one that was in the movie, the one that like the white chicks or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Miles Bullock was Renzo, and I thought they were hilarious every single time I seen them. I thought they were funny as hell. And then somebody that I thought was hilarious and was kind of making this movie, I kid you not, maybe the first, and I think that's why I was like, when we first watched it, I think the first 28 minutes were really funny to me, and that's what it kind of drew me in, like, oh, you know, I think this is going to be good. Like 25 to 28 minutes, I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. And then after that, kind of drops off. But somebody who kind of made it bearable was Andrew Scholes. Like, he was there for only a brief amount of time, and I thought he was going to, like, be a reoccurring, like, let's, you know, wash down this, you know, serious moment with a little piece of humor or something like that. And they didn't utilize him. They just threw him away. Like, and that's a problem for me, because they also, with his character, in my opinion, kind of threw away Jack Harlow's character too. Because in the original, it was about Woody Harrelson's character and Wesley Snipes' character basically trying to figure it out in this world. And in this one, it felt like, in the beginning, it felt like he was a part of it. And then towards the end, they kind of threw him to the side, you know what I mean, in favor of Kamal's character, you know what I mean, which makes sense because he's a better actor, but at the same time, don't make it so apparent, in my opinion. But
it's funny you mentioned, like, I know we were moving on, but when you mentioned Andrew Schultz, and I don't know what it is, but his vibe and his presence, you'll probably go ahead with for saying it, but he gives me Pete Davidson vibes. Like, I don't even like I kind of find him annoying, you know what I mean? Like, he shows up in things that I feel he has no business showing up in, says a quirky one-liner, and then, you know, like in this movie, they kind of throw him away. Like, towards the end when he's like, oh, yeah, he just has a really bad temper, and he kicks the ball. I'm like, who? This movie could have been done 5 minutes ago. You don't have to show me this fucking guy. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for that. He just gives me Pete Davidson vibes.
And you know what? I can't disagree, but I like him as a comedian, and as I watch him heavy. So I gotta say, like, he's a joy to always see. But I can see what you're saying, and I can agree with you on that part. Damn, Andrew, why'd you do this to me, man? Now I can never unsee it.
I don't know. That's just what it is. I don't know. I love you. And, like, another character that I think was kind of funny, or the one that I found more hilarious, was the dude that played Lamar in GTA 5 was in there. Right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Wasn't that not him when he was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna get right with my game and whatnot.
Oh yeah, that's him. Yeah.
He's like, y'all fucking up the gentrification of the area.
Yeah.
Like, he was towards the end. He was like my favorite part. I was like, damn, I wish we could have seen more of him.
That's the thing, is that the only consistent, like, comic relief or, like, comedians that they kept were Speedy and Renzo, which they were funny, and I think they were, especially Renzo. I thought he was hilarious, but they brought in all these other little like cameos and stuff, and they just didn't ride with the ones that were like funnier, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like Andrew Schultz, I give it to him. Like the scene that he did was funny, but there was funnier scenes towards the end that I would have been like, well, you could have replaced him with that right there, and it wouldn't have made a big deal to me. You know, probably would have kept me a little bit more interested. But yeah, I mean, what do you think off the things I said? Love interest, all that stuff. I mean, do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, for sure. I think Jack Harlow and what's her name's character don't vibe too well. For half the time, I was like, they were making it a big deal that he lied to her. You know what I mean? But I'm just like, why? What is the what's the difference between? Well, okay, because in the '90s case, he was basically he's supposed to be out there looking for a job and stuff. So I can understand the secrecy behind basketball, but he was a gambler. It's not so much that it was basketball; it was that he gambled. You know what I mean? Like if he was playing just regular like blacktop, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's that they were gambling money they owed people in the '90s one. You know what I mean? And this one, it feels like he's struggling just to struggle. You know what I mean? All chasing the dream that he basically lost when his knees gave out.
Yeah. That I noticed that they gave Kamal basically all the problems that happened in the original. They gave it to him because in the original, Woody Harrelson and his girl, she was the stylist and stuff like that who was trying to make a name for herself but couldn't do it, and she was basically holding it up, holding it down while Woody Harrelson was supposed to be looking for a job, but he was actually just gambling all the money that she was giving him and whatever. And then Wesley basically had a good relationship with his wife, but just lived in a shitty neighborhood. You know what I mean? And he was just trying to do better for his family. And they basically gave all that to Kamal. They were in a shitty neighborhood trying to make it or whatever. Money problems, all that stuff. Had a struggle. The only thing is that she didn't leave him, but that was the thing. Rosie, in the original, she was a supportive one. You know what I mean? She was the one that was there for everything, while Wesley was trying to hide whatever he was doing from his girl because he was trying to, bring the money up some way, somehow, just do it, And so they basically, all the characteristics from Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes was all given to Kamal in that relationship right there. And I could understand what they were trying to do. Maybe they were like, oh, if we just focus on one person struggling with all this, it'll hit a little bit harder. But honestly, it just felt like a lot. I was like, man, this dude's life is shit. Why is he playing basketball? Dude, you should really be trying to work at your job and maybe get a second one at this point, because modern days don't play that.
Yeah, no. It was weird because all it felt for Jack Hollow's character was that he was white. So on the court, he'll look funny, you know what I mean? And that like he'll be judged and whatnot because they're playing in like, watts and whatnot. And secondly, his knees. They made it a big deal about his knees, and I was like, well, half the time he's playing fine anyway.
I was about to say, this boy was fine throughout the whole movie. In the beginning, he hurt his leg, right? When he did that one layup. But then the rest of the movie, he was playing fine. Yeah. And then at the very end, at the crucial part of the moment, it fucks up again.
Yeah.
So, inconsistent.
That was that was my big thing. So I was like, damn, like this, like his knees are supposed to be in pain, and then when he's when he's I guess high off the game or whatever, he's just like, oh man, like my body's on fire, like I feel real good. But I'm like, dog, there's a bunch of times where I think you should have been fucking hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like after he delivered the fucking dunk at the end, I was like, that the fall should have hurt his fucking knees or something. Like there's no fucking way he gets a layup, snaps his leg, and then that's when it's over for him.
Yeah, very inconsistent.
Like if they would have played it a little bit better and like they said, just have him, like I understand playing defense and stuff, but he's not gonna be that good. Have him pick his spot and then team play from there and then shoot him the rock so he can have that angle, and just like they said he does, he plays angles, he could just fucking go at it.
Yeah,
but that's not what happened.
I thought that was basically going to be the dynamic. Like he was going to run around, be able to run around the court or whatever, and basically take the 3-point shots or whatever. But the thing was about the whole white men can't jump in the original was that he was trying to dunk the ball and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And this one, the white man literally couldn't jump. it was bullshit because I honestly thought Jack Harlow's character was just there to be that white punching bag that everybody can throw jokes at.
Oh, for sure. That was my big thing too. Like, I understand, you know what I mean? Just to preface it, because I don't want to sound wrong or nothing. But there's a reason that, you know, when Jordan Peele does a movie, you know, they make fun of, they do the bare minimum and they poke jabs at white people. But it's for like a scene, you know, and then they move on with their life.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie continues. Each time Jack Harlow is getting fucking, you know, they called him a white guy. They made fun of his fucking pants, his fucking smoothie, whatever the fuck he was doing. I feel like it just stopped the movie just so they can have an extra 5 minutes to roast this dude. And I'm like, that distracts. Like, why can't you roast him and keep the movie forward? Why do you have to spend like 5 extra minutes just talking about the fucking white guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my thing too. That's why I was like saying before, his character was just there. Like they put him in there just to be there, and they try to give him a reason to exist in the movie, and it felt like they just gave it all to Kamal. And I was like, okay, well, you know, that's fine, but then why even call it White Men Can't Jump? Just call it something else and make it another goofy movie. It just seemed like they just wanted the title to just bring viewership into it, and that's all that happened. Like, I watched it and I was just disappointed at the outcome.
Yeah, and the fact that he hit that dunk anyway, you know what I mean? Like, if he would have missed it, and it'd be a big deal. Like, dude, you can't jump. What are you doing with your fucking knees? You know?
Yeah.
Then that would have probably set the movie forward 10 times. You know what I mean? But Jack Harlow does it. He makes a double-handed dunk. The crowd cheers. What's his name? It was just like, oh, y'all thought white men can't jump or whatever. And I'm like, he shouldn't be able to technically. Like,
his knees are fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the characters, obviously,
very static.
Very, very, very weird characters in this one. What about, let's talk about the plots and everything. I know we kind of dipped into it during the characters. Obviously, the plots define the characters. But plot-wise, what you think it was driven well?
No. Here's my thing. Because I feel like if you're gonna, like I told you when we started watching it, if you're gonna market a basketball movie, I expect more basketball. You know what I mean? This felt kind of like how you were saying with Creed 3, where there wasn't enough boxing fights.
Mm-hmm.
There was not enough basketball being played in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the first one that we see set the tone, showed you that Camille he's a vet, but he's not playing vet leagues. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you meet Jack Harlow,
and even then, that was for like a couple.
Yeah, that's why
edited cuts too. By the way,
they use it to establish his character basically.
Yeah.
And then we meet Jeremy. That basketball scene goes on, and then they spent, like I tell you, about maybe 30 minutes after the fact, just being like, this is their shit job, this is their shit life. You know, why do they need a hustle? We find out why they need a hustle. When it came to the old one, there was still basketball involved throughout, you know, telling us all that other information. Like, we know Gloria was trying to make it out. We know they owed money to people. Wesley Snipes' character in the OG is a mystery. It's not till we find out that he basically played Woody Harrelson's character when we find out, oh, he has a good life. He just lives in a shit neighborhood and he's trying to get out.
Yeah.
That is fine. You know what I mean? Like, but the whole premise was that they played basketball throughout that whole movie until, you know, the end when they're like, oh, we got to go explore Gloria at the game show she's on,
mm-hmm.
which is what, Jeopardy? Price is Right? Whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it was a simple plot there, but it involved basketball. Like, if you showed me a trailer for a basketball movie, I expect basketball. You know?
Yeah.
That was just one of my big things amongst a bunch of other things where I was like, this is very distracting because all the time that I feel like they could be setting up their characters, they could also be playing basketball.
Yeah.
Like, that scene that pissed me off the most was, I think we saw it together, where, like, he was fucking, he's like, oh, I challenge you or whatever. That knee scene, basically. That whole scene where he's like, I challenge you. And then he's like, ah, shit, I gotta go move my car. and then he moves his fucking car. It's like a 5-minute gag, and then he comes back, shoots one shot, fucks up his knee, and then it's over. I'm like, dog, they just should have been more basketball. That's one of my big things.
Yeah, and when you first said that, when we first watched it too, or like watched the beginning, I didn't really agree because they did show the basketball, but then as like time went on and I actually watched it fully, yeah, there wasn't enough basketball in this one. Way too much like they put basketball in there, but they did like a montage too, which was like bullshit, and they added comedy in there, which they kind of did a remake of what happened in the OG, but instead with a flamethrower at one point, and I was just like, it was a funny gag, but that could have been the time where you showed the basketball skills, you know what I mean? And they barely showed anything. They showed a couple here and there. They showed basically Jack Harlow finessing people, or basically making jokes to people.
Yeah,
and then basketball for like 2 seconds, and then boom, something else happens, and then a different game or whatever. You never actually saw a full game until the very end and the beginning, basically.
Yes.
And it was just like, well, damn, like, I thought we were gonna get some intensity, show what kind of skills we got. Yeah, they showcased it a little bit. You were able to learn a little bit from why they weren't really playing so much, but it was kind of like, I mean, Jack Harlow actually played a lot more than what he was supposed to, in my opinion. But
yeah, when they needed him to, and then when the plot required him to have a problem, they were just like, well, here you go. You know what I mean? Like, if it was as consistent to where it stopped him from playing the fucking league, I'm sure the NBA could have pumped a quarter out of that man before they decided, oh shit, let's rest his knees.
Yeah.
But anyway, because I mean, I could keep going, but it's just like, I feel like I got my point across. There was not enough basketball. The plots were kind of, the plot was trying to be simple but complicated all at once, and you're just like, boy, I pick a struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
the plot was overstuffed for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it was mostly overstuffed with a lot of political things, which was weird because they're just trying to make it into ends meet, you know what I mean, and try to push on. But it was very like in your face kind of stuff, and I was just like, well, dude, like, here's the thing. You have a job, but you're just not happy with it, which is fine. I get it. People aren't happy with their jobs. But you're telling me that your girl's making all this money and you're pissing it away because you get angry? You know what I mean? Like, that's your big problem. You have anger issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, that's, it is what it is. He manages it a little bit or whatever, but it was kind of like we could have done with that. They could have had more hard-hitting. Like, they could have played on that whole thing with his dad more, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could have played on that more, but they wanted to, make issues in the house. They wanted to do this with Jack Harlow, which was unnecessary to begin with, because honestly, even that fight where they kind of just stopped talking to each other just seemed forced. I was like, why? You guys were just fine a second ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He wasn't even an alcoholic throughout the whole movie. All of a sudden, he just turned into an alcoholic.
He shows up to practice on alcohol and stuff, and you're just like, well, what the fuck? That took a weird ass turn. They've never once mentioned that he was either an ex-addict or he was an addict, and you're just like, well, what the fuck?
Well, he's an addict for pills, because that's what he was getting from what's his face, but painkillers for his knees.
Yeah, not alcohol.
Why was he? That was my thing. So I don't know. There was a lot of plots in this one that just weren't lining up for me, and I was just like,
they kind of went nowhere.
Yeah, it went nowhere. So it just begged the question, like, why even put it in the movie, or why even have this movie? You know what I mean? So I didn't think there was anything really justified to make this movie, but they forced something for money, and that's fine. Actually, it's not fine, but whatever, content. Now let's talk about the cinematography. Now, in the OG for me, if I remember correctly, it was set in like Miami or something, right?
No, it was Los Angeles.
Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Okay, so Los Angeles, they really utilized the beach, right? They did a lot of scenes where they saw the sun coming up, sunset, like those midday shots with like the background with the beach and everything like that, the games that they were playing, the pickup games, all that. Even the streets when they were, at those one scenes when they were playing in the hood or whatever, like really beautiful scenery at a certain time of day that they were playing, stuff like that. This one, everything just seemed bland. Like in the movie, there wasn't really any great popping colors besides the sneakers that they were wearing, the product placement that they put into the movie.
Fucking Doritos.
Not just Doritos, but they put a lot of like different, like, because Homeboy was snacking a lot, and there was a lot of like food at that picnic and stuff like that. And at that point, like it seemed like everything else was dark, but those bags were bright, if that makes sense, to really like show you. And then the colors at the end, even the colorful like suits that they were wearing, kind of seemed dull. You know what I'm saying? So I was kind of like, yeah, the cinematography like really took a dip, and the costume designing, I mean, I get what they were going for, really like designer stuff, like, oh, this is like the style nowadays. So it was fine with me. I guess the outfit designers and stuff like that made a difference in some scenes, because a couple of the wardrobe was kind of interesting in my opinion. That's just, sometimes if the costume can get my attention, I can give it a little bit of a watch. And there was a point in the movie where it was just like, I think it was like 20 minutes of just trying to go into their lives a little bit more. And, like you said, not enough basketball. And they were just, outfit changes and stuff like that. I was just like, okay, this is the only thing keeping me interested. Well, that fucking blows, because they were talking about other stuff. But I can tell you right now, there were some things I remember, and there were some things I was just like, you guys are doing way too much talking. You guys could have settled this on the court.
I think this is one of those problems that we run into a little bit when movies are set in very nice cities and locations and stuff, but they either overdo it or they underdo it like this, right? So, for example, let's that one Jonah Hill movie that we talked about. I can't remember what it was called, but they were in LA in that one. While we did say it overdid it with showing like all these cut scenes of LA and things like that, it's well deserved because it's LA. That was I don't remember us talking about it negatively, other than that it was overused.
Yeah.
When you're set in a beautiful city, you should be able to utilize that. They only did it for one scene, and that was in the beginning after the fucking Jack Harlow schools his Kamal, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And
that's the only thing we see. That was one of my big things. I was like, why are they inside? Why aren't they at the beach balling up like they're supposed to? And then they go to Watts, and you're like, oh, they're outside for this one basketball scene that we don't see fully because they piss off the dude.
Yeah.
You're just like, that's a waste. That's such a waste.
Yeah.
You have a real opportunity to like showcase LA, but you don't.
Yeah. Especially 2023, the beaches aren't the cleanest right now. But, I think one thing that popped out for me too was the ending as well, when he's supposed to be like in the Lakers or whatever, and he was doing an interview. I was like, man, you could tell that shit's green screen. If you guys are already recording in LA, why can't you just be like, hey, yo, let me just go down to the Staples Center real quick, shoot this quick scene, and walk out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, they put him in front of a green screen and just put him in like Laker attire and was like, oh yeah, he's in the stadium. I was like, he's clearly not in the stadium. Like I was watching it, and you could see like the fuzzy outline of like how they try to blend him in or something, and I was just like, that is a mistake.
That's what's up. That's crazy. But yeah, no, it's definitely a problem because like I said, there's times where you could just really showcase the city and the area. Use it to your advantage. You don't have to keep everything inside and dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they had plenty of opportunity to try to like showcase something. Even now, like there's basketball like hoops and stuff on rooftops now. Like people actually play on rooftops now. You know what I mean? They could have utilized that. I know back in the day they probably didn't really think about that, and if they were kind of like in a dome type shit. But like nowadays, there's people that actually build full-size courts on top of buildings, and they play on top of buildings. You know what I mean? They could have utilized that. Imagine like a late game or whatever on top of a building or whatever. Like that, like so many things I was thinking like they could have done to maybe like improve from the first one, it like visually wise, and they just stuck to like bland indoors, some like weird sets type stuff. And I was like, a big step down from at least in my opinion, from the director, like the house party, like he was actually creative with that one. I don't know if it was because of like,
I'm gonna have to watch that one.
Maybe because it was like, you know, a party movie where he had to like dip into like more colorful stuff for the house, stuff like that or whatever. But like I think he did a lot better in that one than what he did in this one, which is crazy. And that's what I'm saying. It's crazy because he had more to play with this one. You know what I mean? Where in the last one he just didn't.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. It's just it's either just you over the top use it for filler, or you underdo it and you kind of do discredit. Because I mean, are you in LA anymore at that point? You haven't shown us anything LA worthy other than Watts.
Yeah,
you're just like, wow, I waste of potential.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not fair because I really didn't want to jump into this movie. I will say that like there was a couple of things that I would say this movie worked better when it was playing to that comedy factor. I think when it made me laugh good. But I think when like they were trying to actually tell a story, it was more like meh. Like why am I sitting through all this?
I don't know, because I found some of the comedy funny, but like I said, when you stop the movie to make those corny white jokes, you're just like, we've seen this before. No. You did not need to stop the movie for this.
No, you're right on that part. I'm talking more of like the, you know, like how you said, like the dude that played in GTA when he came out and he, you know, he actually did a funny thing.
That's right. A lot of it
poked a little fun at the white, but then, you know, kept moving on and type shit.
Yeah.
Whereas like other scenes, it was, and like I just want to start talking about like plot holes or like little things that just they didn't give a fuck about after. One thing was like at the end when like they all of a sudden gave a fuck about his knee getting hurt or whatever, and homeboy was there, the one that had the flamethrower or whatever.
Yeah.
And like he punched him out and he was like, oh, I'm gonna get you afterwards, but then nothing
happens.
I'm like, why you even do that?
I feel like that should have been a thing. If you had to drag out the movie a little bit, I feel like that would have probably saved it. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is that the movie dragged out already. Like in that middle section where I told you, like that 20-minute section, 20 minutes, like after, I think it was like 30 to maybe like 50, where like it was just talking and just whatever happening. I was like, you could have teed up something where they worked together at the end and build a friendship. The most they did was just hustle a few people and then not be friends anymore. And then he plays Ed Sheeran and it's like, we're buddies again. You know what I mean?
That threw me off too. I was like, don't tell me he's really about to like play Ed Sheeran to get this man's attention. I was like, damn. And then I noticed that's little movie magic, because if you're really playing music like that out of a car, the boom mic probably would have picked up the music way before they picked up the voices. So that music was probably edited in, if you just want to think about that.
But yeah, you could tell because of the bass and everything in the car. It sounded like they actually recorded it in a car and then put it over.
Yeah. And no, their friendship wasn't organic. And I know Wesley and Harrison's character didn't really have, and the OG didn't. It wasn't a real friendship. They were business partners, like they say. You know what I mean? And then, you know, by the end of it, he kind of leaves them alone.
Was this scene even in the movie?
Wasn't that? No, because they brought a car everywhere, and they take the train for.
This scene was in the trailer when they're like walking down those steps, and that's what kind of drew me in, was the whole color. I was like, oh, they're really gonna show a side of like, you know, LA that, you know, people don't really see and stuff, and they're gonna hoop in that side, that like, you know, be innovative. And that I didn't even remember seeing that in the movie at all.
No, I'm telling you, no. What would be the point of taking the train everywhere if he had a car?
Another thing that happened that I was like, why would it just reminded me because of the jug. I was like, my man's just schooled you for $300. You guys were mad at each other, and all of a sudden he leaves his water bottle. Like, okay, they just played. He leaves in a dash, kind of like Cinderella losing her shoe.
Yeah.
And the prince coming out to be like, hey, go back, or whatever. Why the fuck did they do that in this movie? That's exactly what they did. I was like, who gives a shit? He just finessed you for $300. If I would have seen that water bottle, I would have kicked that shit and put it in the trash. He's supposed to be this tough guy, but he gives you your water bottle back, or actually doesn't just give it back to you by calling you or something and you show up. He went to look for you, actually did research to find you type shit.
It's crazy what you can do with the internet. No, but yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Is that like a PSA? Like, be careful what you do on the
wasn't.
internet?
It just wasn't like very organic. It felt like things just had to happen for the next thing to happen, which is a very big problem. Like it doesn't sit very well when at the end of the movie you're like, what the fuck? Because now there's things that weren't even answered because, like you said, that dude was threatening to beat his ass in the parking lot. Nothing comes about it. And then he's able to run full sprint at the end to catch that picture. Wasn't his knee just fucked up not long ago?
Uh-huh. Right. He couldn't even play a second ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There was a few hiccups with this movie. I can sit here all day and tear into it if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, honestly, because I was like, okay, Jack Harlow's first role, I was like, somebody seen his acting chops and thought, hey, there is something there. Mm-hmm. Which, I won't lie, there was a few scenes that he had me in, and then it just went away. Like, quick. There was a couple scenes where I was like, okay, he actually is trying in this one. Mm-hmm. But then he tries to do that Woody Harrelson thing again and be funny and shit like that. And I'm like, I get it, but I don't think he was supposed to be the comic relief. I think that's what the two other dudes were there for. So why was it that he needed to cut his dialogue short to banter with this guy or banter with that guy, or he needs to do all this? As it didn't really do Jack Harlow any justice. And I'm sorry, dude, like you already went to a straight to streaming movie, so that kind of like if you would have, and this kind of plays to the thing I was telling you before, right? A director can only do so much with a performance, and I'd say Jack Harlow showed his performance consistency throughout the movie, and it was very inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to ease up off the throttle for him because it's his first role. It's his first role.
I get that.
And if he's willing to actually make a career out of it, then sure. But yeah, a straight to streaming movie isn't the first step to take. But maybe it's a director's choice because he's not really known. No one's probably ever going to see this movie. But, I mean, tying Jack Harlow, a famous music artist, is going to get people to see a movie. I'm just saying, if a director, if I was ever an executive and I heard a director say that shit, I would have never hired him for the project. That's just crazy. But I do get what you mean. It's just so much potential. And I was hoping for more. I really was. I was, like, excited to watch this movie because, like I said, the OG is my favorite. I love that shit. I was coming into this movie willing to even... Because the main Kamal, I didn't have an issue with him. I seen him before in a few things. I was like, okay, he's really, honestly, he's really honing his like skills as he goes into different projects and stuff like that. So you can tell like there is potential there if he just, honestly, if he stopped trying to compare himself to Dwayne Wade, I think he would do a little bit better, to be honest. But yeah, Jack Harlow, he is still fresh. I will give him that, but you need to understand, like, it seemed like they were like, oh, we're going to do this movie of, White Men Can't Jump. He went home, put the movie in, and was, like, on replay just trying to do whatever Woody Harrelson did just to, give it that little flair, and it translated into his acting for sure, in my opinion. It's just... His character just felt inconsistent because they said in the beginning that oh yeah, he can play with their mentality, and get them to shoot badly and whatnot. But you don't see that half the time.
You see it when it's necessary,
I guess.
You seen it when it was necessary because, in my opinion, all right, hear me out. At the end of the movie, if he really wanted to win the game, he should have never have been put in the game. He should have just been yelling from the sidelines, to be honest, and getting in their heads. And they could have won the game because at the end of the day, how'd they win the game? Kamal.
Without it, Jack Harlow's character.
Exactly. So, like, what was the whole point of even putting him into the game if he could have just been on the sideline and played to his strengths, right? And they didn't even pursue that.
Yeah, no. I feel like I'm in the same boat with you because this movie could have done so much more without him. And I know that sucks to say, but I feel like they were just like, man, we can't do this movie without alone, and it's really weird. Let's make it a remake of a movie that people low-key love, and because even when we said it, following up Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes is a big fucking shadow. You know what I mean? So good luck with that.
Yeah, and we should have probably known them trying to follow that up with, no offense, with Jack Harlow, and I'm not even holding you. Kamal too, his person too, can't hold a stick to
exactly.
to Wesley. So trying to put these guys behind them off the jump, I would have told you that's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should have got somebody a little bit more established. You know, Woody Harrelson looked like he was in his 30s, mid 30s kind of thing when he was doing that movie. So he was like, you know, a little bit older.
Yeah.
This one, it just seemed like a loser mid 20-year-old who, you know, to be honest, hurt his legs and just wanted to pop pills and you know, just feel better and probably hustle on the side and make money or whatever. And
his character and his situation was very his own fault. It's not like Woody Harrelson's character where it is his fault, but you know, I feel like it's different circumstances. Woody Harrelson's character was a fucking gambler, and he ended up losing it all by the end. With this one, he gets the girl, he gets his dream job. Well, I mean, not his dream job because he still wanted to play NBA, but he ends up being an established physical therapist.
yeah,
So it's like, what did he really lose?
He's literally training somebody who's playing on the Lakers now or whatever, and another player from a different team. I think the Nets or something. I think Tyler Harrow is on the Nets or something. I don't remember, but yeah. So it's like, I don't know, man. Let's just put this movie out of its misery.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, Josh, from 1 to 10, what do you give this movie?
Okay. It's gonna be harsh. This is probably the first movie where I feel like I'm being harsh. So it doesn't do well for me around the characters, the plot, story, cinematography. It doesn't give me that. And then on a sports level, which I know we didn't really touch upon, like as a sports movie, it doesn't give me that either.
To be honest, because I didn't see it as a sports movie. I wanted to at least give it that benefit of the doubt, but the lack of basketball, like, really didn't put it in that category.
That's why it's a problem for me, because you market it basketball, you name it after a 90s basketball film, you expect basketball. It doesn't work as a basketball film, you know what I mean? So even as a sports film, it doesn't do anything for me. I gotta give this, like, because at the end of the day, it is just an end movie. I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch it again unless I get really fucking bored and decide to change my tune. I'm giving it like a 4.5. This is not even like average. This is like below average for me.
Wow, man. I don't think you're being harsh enough. Look, like I told you, I went into this movie giving it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, I'm going to not compare it. I'm going to be good. I'm going to watch this whole movie, okay? You guys heard me. I went into this movie mind wiped. I just wanted to be impressed. This movie did not impress me. Not one little bit. The only thing that kept this movie afloat for me was Lance Reddick, okay, his character. And we didn't even see him a lot. Okay, but when he was on screen, I did feel for him. But we didn't even see him a lot, and they should have really played to that strength because, you know, R.I.P. He was one of the greatest, you know, actors. He was really good at what he did.
Yeah,
the relationship between Jack Harlow's character and Tatiana wasn't there for me. I honestly, I didn't even care for them. They could have been out of the whole movie entirely.
Yeah,
and I could have been fine. Like, they did not need to be in that movie. If they would have just focused on Kamal, him trying to further into the basketball business or whatever, maybe if they wanted to add Jack Harlow as that comedian or whatever, that would have been fine. But don't market it as White Man Can't Jump. Because that's not what we got with this movie. That's not even, like I said, we don't need copy for copy, frame for frame. But if you're going to call it the same movie that it was back then, at least have some kind of same premises, or at least have the premises but dive a little bit deeper into them in a different way, you know, in a modernized way if you need to, you know. And I don't think they did any of that. So with that, and yeah, I think this is the first one where we're going low. And I don't think I watch a lot of shit movies, okay? I watched a lot of Nicolas Cage movies, okay? I've watched a lot, and even some of those are better than this movie. They at least have some kind of entertainment value. This one had zero entertainment value. I don't know how many times. I think there was at one point, I'm not even capping, I was watching the movie. I think about 2 minutes go by. I was watching the screen the whole time. Nothing even sunk in. I had to rewind it real quick because nothing sunk in on what they were saying. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. Which is crazy because at one point I think they made a joke right there and it didn't even land to the point where I didn't even notice it. Yeah. With that being said, I'm giving this movie a 3. I'm giving it a 3. I was thinking about giving it a 4 because of Lance Reddick, but they didn't even put him in the movie enough. Yeah. It would have saved the movie and it would have made that emotional impact more emotional. But instead I got all tightened up and 2 seconds later I was just like, whatever. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like it didn't even let you sit with that feeling. For me to even feel like, oh yeah, this hit really hard. You know what I mean?
Because right after that, he goes out, he talks to the comedic relief, and he's like, man, like, and then he asks about the basketball tournament, and then boom, they have the money for it all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, speaking about that too, his girl over here complaining about money and everything like that, you know, the salon and stuff, and you know, next thing you know, they're over here worried about how they're gonna get in the competition. All of a sudden, she doesn't have it all, so I give him points for at least shying away from that. But all of a sudden, she got the money to put up for the competition and stuff like that, right?
5 Gs.
But we're worried about him. You know what I mean?
Y'all were struggling for a cool minute. Like, I don't know.
And I understand she's saving it for her salon or whatever. Maybe she didn't want to tell him, but y'all are married and you over here putting it all on him, but you got 5 bands in the safe and you're not even going to at least say one time throughout the movie, like, hey, I do have this 5,000, but we're saving it. We're not supposed to touch it. You know what I mean? If they would have made it like that, like made it a point to him to be like, okay, well, she has $5,000. I want to be a man. I'm not going to touch that money, whatever. I'm going to put myself through hell to make it for them or whatever. That would have played a lot harder than her just walking up and being like, hey, they got these 5,000 here still in my pocket. Love you, baby.
Oh, they didn't even, like, now that you mention it, they didn't even mention they didn't show how they got the extra cash.
Nope. Apparently they didn't have a way. They were down on their luck, but they sure as hell found it because they were in the competition.
That's this fucking movie, man.
Yeah.
4. I change it. 4. Fuck this. You guys will never see this shit again. I've come to my realization. 4. Fuck the 5. This is just go see it for yourself, because at least if you haven't seen the OG, you can try and appreciate it a little bit more. But the OG is significantly better.
And just to close this out, you know, we're on a different path, right? You gave it a point higher. What gives it that extra point from where I'm at, out of curiosity?
Just because it's not the worst movie I've seen. That's it. It's just below average for me. Like, I know I'm not gonna see this movie again. Like, this is just gonna, like, but it's not the worst movie I've seen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there's nothing. What I've said bad about it stops it from going higher. That's it. That's just.
I get you. Okay. Yeah. I think what dropped it, because I thought it was going to be a 4.2 for me. I was like, I think the middle of the movie, I was like, I think I see where Joshua said when he said it was average. I was like, it's at like a 5. And then as it progressed, it went to a 4. And then it just hit a 3 for me, because basically what you said was it didn't even qualify as a basketball movie for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it would at least qualified and gave me some good entertainment when it came to the basketball aspect, I would at least give it a 4.
Yeah.
But it couldn't do that, so I was like, I really gotta unfortunately drop you down but even like I said, it's not the worst movie, but I have seen better Nicolas Cage movies, and I'll just leave it at that, because if you guys seen some of Nicolas Cage's movies,
he just be doing anything.
Yeah, sometimes. But yeah, with that being said, that's our review for White Man Can't Jump. If there's anything that we probably forgot to mention, anything that you guys thought about the movie that maybe you guys saw, we missed, whatever, maybe we didn't talk about it here, any topics that we should talk about, any movies that we should be reviewing, if you want to support us in a big way, Josh, let them know where they can let us know.
If you want to hit us up anywhere, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at FilmBros Podcast. We post when new episodes are up. You can engage with us there. Hell, you could let us know about a real sports movie you want us to review. Jesus. If you want to listen to us on the go, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on a couple more sites, so go ahead and check us out at FilmBros Podcast. If you want to support us, Buzzsprout, all the links are in our bios and our social medias that I just listed. You can go ahead and subscribe. It'll really help us out. Continue to pump out this show in great quality for you guys. And then when it's all said and done, subscribe to our YouTube at FilmBros Podcast.
Yes, because now YouTube Music has podcasts on there. We will be uploading our podcast there, so you guys can now check us out on YouTube Podcasts. And with that being said, we'll talk to you guys on the next one.
Talk to you guys there.